Hey all, and welcome to my brand new marriage advice channel. Now, today I'm going to cover 7 essential tips that will help save or improve your marriage, even if there's already been talks of getting a divorce. When you're trying to find someone to marry, you try and find the right person for you, right? And when things end up going awry and you begin arguing with that partner, you might begin to feel worried that you might have married the wrong person. Now, although compatibility is a crucial part in any relationship, marriage has a lot less to do with picking the perfect person than it does doing the right things in the marriage. So in other words, marriages are constant works in progress. And marriages are sometimes, more about what you do in a marriage than they are about who you marry. So in this video, I'm going to cover 7 absolutely crucial tips that will help you make your marriage adventure as happy and fulfilling as possible. So the first piece of advice, number 1, is to analyze yourself. Now, if there's any fact that I want you to learn in this video, it's this. You are 50% of your marriage. Meaning that if you want your marriage to work out, you're responsible for 50% of those actions required to get the marriage to that point. But a common misconception is that it only takes both partners to save their marriage. Now, this seems reasonable, but there is an important point to make here. Unless your spouse has truly given up on the marriage, it is possible for you to make sufficient changes on your own to save the marriage. Perhaps it won't happen overnight, but over time, you can make small adjustments that your partner will notice. And once they begin noticing these positive changes, their behavior and their actions will change for the better as well. Now, without getting too much into the weeds, you need to know that you and your spouse communicate in what's called a revolving stimulus, or a response pattern, if you will. Now, that means that when you do or say something, or what we'll call the stimulus, your partner then has to react to it. And from there, you react to their stimulus, and so on. Your marriage is essentially built on a pattern of habitual actions and reactions over time. And since your marriage is comprised of 2 people, a small change in behavior in one person can have a massive impact on the entire relationship over time. So if you begin making small improvements on your own, well, over time, a brand new pattern is going to emerge. And here's another fact that you should realize. Every poor reaction that your spouse has will, in turn, amplify an already bad scenario. So, for example, let's say you choose to criticize your spouse for going out with his or her friends too much. Well, your spouse can react in one of 2 ways. They can maybe decide to come to a compromise with you, or they can decide to maybe go out with their friends in secret. And if you potentially find out about those secret outings with their friends, then your trust in them is going to be broken. And then a whole new negative pattern is going to emerge. So the first crucial tip here is to analyze yourself and your own actions. What stimuli are you putting out there to the people around you? How are they reacting? And are there any actions that you can make to create better stimulus patterns in your marriage? So try to create a plan to introduce stimuli that you know your partner is going to react positively to. And always try and keep that in mind. Now, my second essential tip is to make sure that you grant yourself some you time or some me time. Now, remember that while marriage is all about working as a team with your spouse, you also can't spend every waking moment with them. You need to learn how to place boundaries so that you can allow yourself the time needed to recharge. Whether that's fitness-oriented goals, meditation, relaxation, playing video games, you need to make sure that you plan those moments for yourself. It's gonna strengthen your relationship because you'll have a saner version of yourself to bring onto the table when you and your spouse are together. So by allowing yourself and your partner to have some alone time regularly, you give each other a great opportunity to kind of cool down and reset. And even if your marriage isn't facing the prospect of divorce, allocating some precious me time can be crucial moving forward. Number 3, don't forget those intimate moments. Intimacy is an important part of any marriage, obviously, and it's one of the first areas to suffer when the feelings begin to dissipate. So although couples, looking to mend their marriage, they frequently mention the lack of sex as a source of unhappiness, few people really understand the strong psychological effect that frequent sex has in a marriage. The truth is, it can be the antidote to the problems in your relationship, and it's one of the best ways you and your spouse can revive a level of intimacy. Now that said, obviously it can be equally as frustrating when struggling couples try to force intimacy back into their marriage, and it's not uncommon to feel like sex is a heavy burden that has to be addressed regularly. You and your spouse may even feel like sex puts pressure on you to perform, But romancing your spouse, it isn't about punishing yourself. So think of sex as your secret weapon to saving your marriage. It's not about forcing yourself to enjoy sex, but rather sitting down with your spouse and openly communicating your needs and desires. And if you do find that talking about sex with your spouse is too difficult, then you might consider looking into my Mend the Marriage program, which you can find lots more information about at marriageguy.com. Now on to number 4, which is to remember the 3-sentence rule. So whenever you need to ask your partner to change something, or if you feel like you're going to nag at your partner, then limit your request to 3 sentences max. Now this might sound a little strange, but when you need to be assertive about something important, brevity sends a stronger message to your partner, and you're not going to come across as overly aggressive. And number 5 is to take a time out. So if you find yourself and your spouse in a heated situation, don't duke it out. Instead, at least consider taking a time out, walking away, or just getting some air. See, humans are hardwired with a desire to win, which is why we have a hard time letting our guard down. So when couples talk about hot button issues like sex, housework, money, kids, it's not uncommon for the losing partner to kind of turn up the heat and escalate the issue. So the next time you begin bickering with your spouse, just take a quick break and revisit the subject later when you've had a chance to at least think things through. Going into a contentious conversation with a calmer mindset can really avoid arguments altogether. And on to number 6, make sure your finances are all sorted and taken care of. Now this might sound strange, but one of the biggest and most common problems in marriages is finances. And it can also be one of the most difficult issues to resolve. Because sometimes finances can even get so bad that they can really take over an entire marriage. Now, disputes over cash can come from a variety of issues, really. Maybe your partner earns a lot more than you and there's some built-up resentment over that. Or maybe you both can't decide how to budget your monthly expenses. Money can, of course, also be used and abused for power in a marriage. It can represent control, self-worth, and freedom. And of course, it can also be used as a reward or a punishment. So if you and your husband or wife are starting to hound each other over money, then it's really time to have to sit down and lay out a solid plan of action together. Should you combine your money, separate it, create joint accounts, agree to how much you're going to pay for bills, whatever it is that you decide that's the most fair, both parties have to be part of this decision, and both parties have to keep the system running smoothly. And that way, you'll hopefully avoid having money becoming the catalyst for a marriage-ending argument. All right, and number 7 is give up the grudge. Now, it's really time to let go of your bad memories. In order to do this, you really need to be committed. Now, it might sound easy, but believe me, it's actually a lot tougher than you might think. So hanging on to those, do you remember the time you did such and such moments, are really the kinds of things that lead to relationship sabotage. So instead of carrying grudges around forever, try to let them go. Try this. Write down all of the negative memories that are a product of your marriage on a piece of paper. And then set a timer for however long you think you'll need to fully let these go. And during that dedicated time, allow yourself to wallow in the misery of those grudges. Savor them, get angry about them, swear about them. Do whatever it is you need to do to get sick and tired of them. And then once you're done, commit to not ever thinking about those grudges ever. Realize that those grudges have lost their usefulness and that there's no going back in time to change the course of history. And once you've done that, you can toss the list away and just let them go. Now, if you really want to get creative, maybe you can even burn the list. Not only are you going to feel relieved by doing so, but releasing that kind of negative energy, you're just really opening yourself up to a clean slate and a fresh start. Now, if you guys have any questions about these 7 tips we've talked about, or you want more advice on your specific marriage situation, I do offer one-on-one personal coaching to a select number of clients. So you can see my current availability and learn all about working with me as your marriage coach at marriageguy.com/coaching. Well, I hope you learned something new and you're feeling confident and excited about trying out some of these tips in your marriage. As always, I really appreciate those of you who take the time to like my videos and subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. And of course, I'm also interested in hearing your feedback and your questions, so go ahead and leave a message in the comments below. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video.